Hi. So yesterday we finished up lesson 5 with factors and multiples. Today we're going to move on to lesson 6, which is all about understanding this distributive property. So the distributive property is going to have us evaluate an expression when there are parentheses using this distributive property, and to evaluate expressions with fractions using the distributive property. So we're going to have to understand what in the world is this new distributive property. So this should be maybe a review word if you've seen it on already, but it could be a new thing for you. So I want you to think about all the properties that we've had with math. We've had the commutative property that says it doesn't really matter the order, we can switch that around. We've had different other properties as we've worked through this, and we'll talk about more of those properties in lesson 7, but we're going to add the distributive property to our math terms. So let's think about, what does it mean, distributive? What word do you see inside of this word distributive? Maybe a word piece that you recognize. When I see this word, I think of distribute. If I have cupcakes and I want to distribute them to the class, that means I pass them out to everyone, right? I don't just distribute them to one table, I have to give them to each of you. So distributive property is when we are going to use a number and pass it out, just like we would pass out cupcakes, to every number in there. So for example, let me show you. So if I have a 3 and my parentheses are an x plus a 2, I would need to distribute or give this 3 to every number that is inside that parentheses. Okay, so the distributive property is when we take a number and we give it to each of the numbers inside the parentheses, or with our variables or whatever we're working on. In this case, we're also going to add in fractions and see what that looks like. So we're going to take a number and distribute it to all of the other numbers that are there. Right? So let's get to work and look at one of these. So you are going to need your book today, and we are going to work on page 307. 307. Find example 1. We're going to use this new term, the distributive property, to work out this problem. All right, so I remember when we were working out algebraic problems, you told me that if the number sets beside the parentheses, that means I'm going to multiply. And that is still true here. I am multiplying 2 times the parentheses, okay? Now, where I'm going to use this distributive property is I have to give 2 to everything that's inside the parentheses. So just think of my cupcake example. It wouldn't be fair if I gave one student in here 2 cupcakes and another student didn't get any. So when I distribute, just like my cupcakes, everybody has to get the same number. The same is going to be true with this equation. I'm going to take this 2 and distribute it through the parentheses. So here's what's going to happen. My 2 is going to go to the x. So I'm going to have 2 times x. Plus, I've also got to take the 2 and give it to the 3. So 2 times 3. This way, everything in my parentheses got the 2 as well. Just like all of the students, think about this. If these terms are my students, then everybody got 2 cupcakes. So in this case, everybody got the number of 2. So when I go through, remember what my order of operations says. Multiply first. So 2 times x is just 2x plus 2 times 3, that would just be 6. And this, as simple as I can get, because they did not tell me my value for my variable x. So when it asks me to evaluate this equation, that's as far as I can go until it tells me the value of x. I have now evaluated 2 times the parentheses x plus 3. I have distributed the 2 to each of these numbers inside of the parentheses. All right, you're going to work on a check in your book. So right under example 1, be careful, don't do the one under example 2. They're all on the same page. So right under example 1, there is a check. Use the distributive property and figure out, use this one as a guide, how to evaluate that equation. Go ahead and pause the video and give them about a minute to work. All right, hopefully you've got an answer that you either feel very confident on or you feel like you're lost and you're ready for a neighbor to help. So in just a second, I'm going to have you turn to your elbow partner and ask them, how did you use the distributive property to evaluate this equation? All right, turn to your elbow partner and please pause the video. All right, so hopefully you and your partner agreed on the how to use your distributive property. Remember, a couple of things. This means multiply when my number sits right beside the parentheses. And when I distribute, I have to give the same thing to everyone. So 8 times x, 8 times 3. So when I write that out, I have 8 times my x plus 8 times my 3. Maybe I should use a dot there because that certainly looks like a variable, doesn't it? Times 3. So if I simplify that, I get 8x plus 8 times 3 would give me 24. So when I evaluate using my distributive property, give 8 to x, give 8 to 3, I have 8x plus 24. Very good. All right. If you need more examples, you may pause the video and work a couple more out on the board. If not, let's continue to example 2. So example 2 brings fractions back into it. And last time we saw fractions, we had a little trouble with that. But we've worked on them a little more, so hopefully this will be a little easier for you. So here's what I know. When I have 3 halves, when I have 3 halves, that's the same thing as having 3 whole plus a half. So this is what we looked at the last time when we were looking at fractions. I'm adding, excuse me, to get 3 1/2. I'm not multiplying because that would give me a very different answer. But I have 3 whole plus another half. I have 3 1/2 of something. So this is going to work the same way as that last problem did. 8 is going to have to be distributed to each of these numbers. And notice, it's a multiplication problem. So I'm going to still take 8 times 3. That's going to be my first problem. No variables here, so I'm going to go ahead and use my x again. Plus 8 times the 1/2. Now I have a numerical equation that I have the values. I have all the values. So I can find, what does this equal? So 8 times 3 is 24, because order of operations says I'm going to do all my multiplying first. So I got to come over here and multiply first. Remember, that's like 8 over 1 times 1 over 2. So when I multiply fractions, remember, no common denominators needed. So I just get 8 over 2. Simplify. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So I have 24 plus this 4 now. 24 plus 4. And that would give me the answer of 28. This one didn't have a variable. It instead used my fraction. So remember, fractions, when I have 3.5, 3 whole plus another half is what 3.5 means. Okay? So right below example 2 in your book, there's a check using this distributive property, multiplying by a mixed number again. So see if you can use your distributive property and figure out the value of the check. Go ahead and pause the video and give them about 2 minutes to work this one out. All right, hopefully you've come up with an answer, or you feel kind of stuck and you're ready for a partner to help you out. So I'm going to get you a partner in just a minute. Remember, you need to be discussing the how am I going to use the distributive property to solve this, and that'll bring you to your answer. All right, take your book with you. You've got 5 to find a partner with the same color socks as you have on. You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please pause the video so they have time to discuss. All right, let's see what you guys came up with. So when I think of this problem, I have 12 times 2 wholes plus another 4. Remember, think of it this way. If I have 2 1/4 pizzas, I have 2 whole pizzas, and then I have one other pizza plus another pizza, but it's cut into 1/4 of it. So that is how I'm breaking apart my fraction. So now, using my distributive property, I need to distribute the 12. The 12 gets to go to each of these numbers. So now I have 12 times 2 plus 12 times 1/4. Numerical problem that I now need to evaluate. So order of operations says go ahead and take care of the multiplication first. Well, 12 times 2 is 24 plus, remember, this is 12 over 1 times 1/4. Multiplying fractions, I don't need to find common denominators. So I can just multiply 12 over 4. And now I'm ready to simplify. 4 will go into 12 3 times. So now I have 24 plus 3. When I do my final step, that'll get me the answer of 27. So when I evaluated 12 times 2 1/4, I would get 27 because of my distributive property. So today we introduced a new property, the distributive property. Remember, all that means is we're going to distribute the number that sits outside of our parentheses to each of the numbers inside. It's important that you don't leave anybody out that's inside of the parentheses. Just remember our cupcake example. You would be very upset if someone got 2 cupcakes and you got none. So make sure that everything inside the parentheses, you gets the same number. All right? So for today, you guys are going to get an exit ticket that checks your knowledge of this new distributive property, seeing exactly where you are. So you are going to use the distributive property to evaluate when you have parentheses, and also use the distributive property when you have that fraction. Remember, look back at your example. We talked about how to break that fraction apart so that you do have your parentheses that we started with this example. All right, today's assignment, after you finish your exit ticket, you're going to turn to page 113. On 113, using the examples we did today, you will be able to work out 1 through 6 in your book and 13 and 14 on the front in your book. The question on the back that you need to work on is number 18. Right? So that'll be your assignment today. This is a keep assignment because we've got to finish the distributive property tomorrow. Today is an iReady Learning Path day. Reminder, you need 2 lessons if you've used your time wisely this week. You're going to need 2 lessons unless you've had a lesson added on because you have not followed directions. If you need extra math, you can go ahead and work on extra math. Or if you finish early, you can work on hands-on. See you tomorrow.